Welcome to The Explainer. If you're the kind of person who just has to understand the why behind human behavior, you are exactly in the right place. Today, we're unpacking the architecture of autonomy. Specifically, we're looking at the psychology of solo travel. Now, we're not here to swap travel itineraries or packing hacks. Instead, our goal today is to unpack the actual psychological and neurological mechanisms that make traveling entirely alone such a profound catalyst for personal growth. We're going to look at the data, the brain chemistry, and the social science behind why stepping out into the unknown all by yourself is quite literally one of the most powerful things you can do for your mind. Okay, let's dive right into this. We've got a fantastic structured roadmap for our analysis today. First, we'll hit the solo travel boom. Then we'll examine rewiring the brain. Third, we'll explore the paradox of solitude, followed by an honest look at facing the dark side. And finally, we'll break down the lasting transformation. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the solo travel boom, and the actual data behind this massive phenomenon. Before we get into the deep psychology, we really need to grasp the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here. Solo travel, it is absolutely not just a niche hobby for lone wolves anymore. Get this, right now, about 25% of all travelers embark on solo journeys. That is literally 1 in 4 people choosing to venture out entirely on their own. And it represents a massive 42% increase since 2015. Millions of folks are choosing aloneness, not as a last resort because their friends bailed on a group trip, but as their absolute first choice. And what's truly fascinating is that this huge civilizational shift is being heavily driven by women. Female solo travelers actually account for an incredible 54.6% of the overall solo travel industry's revenue. I mean, that's huge. It perfectly reflects this profound cultural shift toward economic independence and a deliberate choice by women to seek out the kind of uncompromised freedom, self-discovery, and empowerment that you simply cannot find on a shared group trip. Look at the younger demographics, and this trend goes into absolute overdrive. 76%! That's how many Gen Z and millennial travelers are planning solo experiences. For these generations, the traditional packed group vacation is totally taking a backseat. Instead, journeys that prioritize deep self-discovery, highly tailored experiences, and a real focus on mental wellness are front and center. It's just a completely different approach to exploring the world. Now, there's this really pervasive myth out there, you've probably heard it, the idea that venturing out alone is only for bold, highly outgoing extroverts. But the data says otherwise. A super significant chunk of this market, 23%, actually identify as introverts. Think about it. For an introvert, the things that seem daunting to others, like spending extended time completely alone, are actually incredibly restorative. Solo travel gives them total control over their social batteries and provides that quiet space they really need for true introspection. Which brings us right to Section 2, rewiring the brain and the actual mechanisms of confidence. So what is actually happening inside your head when you step off a plane in a totally foreign country where you don't speak a word of the language and literally no one knows your name? Well, it all starts with this concept developed by psychologist Albert Bandura called self-efficacy. In academic terms, this is the belief in your own capacity to execute the behaviors necessary to produce specific outcomes. But in relatable, everyday terms, it's that deep-seated belief of, I can handle this. Bandura found that self-efficacy is built primarily through mastery experiences, basically actually succeeding at challenging tasks. And solo travel, it's essentially a concentrated delivery mechanism for these mastery experiences. Every single time you figure out a confusing subway system or negotiate a price without a safety net, boom, you are logging a mastery experience. To really put a human face on this psychological theory, just listen to how one solo traveler described this exact feeling. Quote, once you navigate a new city, problem solve how to deal with flight delays, or order food in a foreign language successfully, you realize there is nothing you can't do. You see, real confidence isn't born in these grand movie hero moments. It's built through the cumulative power of small, undeniable daily victories, where you are the sole architect of your success. Now, what's really interesting about this is the actual neurochemical substrate of this confidence. It is just fascinating. When you face an unfamiliar challenge alone and you succeed, your brain's reward pathways absolutely light up, flooding your system with dopamine. Your brain is literally chemically rewiring itself to associate independence with pleasure and reward. And at the exact same time, making rapid-fire decisions in novel environments gives your prefrontal cortex a massive workout. It actively strengthens the neural circuits involved in self-directed behavior. Moving right along to section 3, the paradox of solitude, we're looking at social connection versus isolation. To truly grasp the social dynamic of going solo, we have to embrace a totally counterintuitive truth. Being alone does not necessarily mean being isolated. In fact, the research shows that traveling alone can actually cure social anxiety and build much deeper, authentic connections. But we've got to distinguish between two very different psychological states here. Loneliness, that's an undesirable, subjective state of social disconnection. It just happens to you. Solitude, conversely, is chosen. It's incredibly restorative and promotes self-reflection. When you travel alone, you are intentionally choosing solitude as a resource. It's that rare, quiet space where you can finally hear your own thoughts, your desires, and your values, completely free from the expectations of your social circle back home. But here's the kicker. You aren't actually in solitude the whole time. And that is where the absolute magic happens, because you don't have a companion to hide behind. Solo travel forces necessary interactions. You have to ask a stranger for directions. You have to aggressively pantomime your way through ordering a pastry at a local bakery. Psychologists actually note that this functions as an organic form of exposure therapy. By constantly forcing yourself to initiate these little micro-interactions with strangers just to survive, your brain progressively desensitizes its fear response. You gradually erode that social anxiety and build profound social confidence. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, which leads us to section 4, facing the dark side, the realities and risks. To keep this explainer totally grounded in reality, any honest treatment of solo travel has to openly acknowledge the legitimate challenges. Romanticizing it really does a disservice to the actual psychological hurdles you'll face out there. There are genuine risks. Situational loneliness can hit you hard, especially in the evenings. There are very real safety concerns that demand constant vigilance. Then there's the frustrating financial cost of the single supplement, where you pay this painfully unfair premium just for being one person. You'll definitely face logistical overwhelm because there's nobody there to share the cognitive load. And when it's all over, you might get slammed with re-entry shock, which is almost like a form of grief when returning to the predictable routine of normal life. It is absolutely crucial to remember that encountering these moments of doubt is just part of the psychological terrain. It is not a personal failure. But don't worry, the data also hands us some incredibly practical mitigation strategies to manage these risks without feeling overwhelmed. First up, start small. Your first trip does not need to be some epic 3-month odyssey. Just try a weekend getaway. Second, balance out your challenging excursions with real, restorative downtime. Third, actively journal. Reflective writing really accelerates how you process and integrate your experiences. And fourth, prepare for loneliness. Just expect it. Recognize it as a temporary signal. Have a comfort strategy ready to go, like a favorite movie on your phone or a plan to call home, and just let the feeling pass. And finally, we arrive at section 5, the lasting transformation. This is all about the lifelong upgrade. Honestly, the most fascinating part of all this research is how this temporary state of travel creates permanent, tangible upgrades long after you've unpacked your bags. So the crucial point here is how solo travel fundamentally shifts what psychologist Julian Rotter called your locus of control. An external locus means you believe things just happen to you by fate or by the actions of other people. But an internal locus, that's the core belief that your choices produce your outcomes. When you are out on the road making hundreds of independent, consequential choices, and you survive, and you actually thrive, your brain gets undeniable proof. It permanently shifts that locus of control inward. You come back fundamentally believing that you are the author of your own reality. And these psychological shifts, they translate amazingly well into practical everyday reality. The competencies you gain while navigating complex foreign logistics map directly onto highly valued modern workplace skills. Figuring out novel issues on the fly without a safety net, that builds adaptive expertise, which translates perfectly to leadership under uncertainty. Engaging face-to-face with diverse locals, that builds cultural intelligence, absolutely vital for global team management. And managing dynamic budgets all by yourself, pure resource allocation gold. You aren't just taking a vacation out there. You are literally engaged in an intensive practicum for professional excellence. Looking at the whole timeline of this transformation really puts it into perspective. Pre-trip planning starts building your baseline self-reliance. During the trip itself, those mastery experiences we talked about trigger massive dopamine releases, permanently rewiring your confidence. Post-trip, sure, you have to navigate reverse culture shock, but it's actually months later where the real magic crystallizes, the active integration of lifelong resilience. You see, the true psychological upgrade requires you to deliberately take the curiosity, bravery, and decisiveness you learned out on the road and apply it directly back into your normal, everyday life. People who have repeatedly navigated genuine uncertainty alone, they just approach the unknown differently, not with dread, but as an open invitation. They are fundamentally changed. Which leaves us with one final, deeply personal question to ponder based on all the data and psychology we've unpacked today. When you finally strip away all the roles, the routines, and the safety nets, what will your solo journey reveal? I really hope this explainer empowered you to step out and find out for yourself.